Number 15. Astro-Skull. Last year, an asteroid shaped like a skull flew over the Earth on the day of Halloween. The space rock was named TB-145 and it was about 1,300 feet long, just about the same size as a large skyscraper. Otherwise known as Spooky and even the Great Pumpkin, TB-145 passed by within 300,000 miles of Earth at 78,000 miles per hour, putting it just outside of the orbit of the Moon. As it passed over Earth, scientists bounced radio waves off of it so they could collect more information on the asteroid's size and location. The data they got back was startling. Instead of looking like any other chunk of space rock, it instead appeared to be a gigantic skull. Looking closely, you can see the empty eye sockets and hole where the nose would be. Scientists also learned that this was not Spooky's first appearance. The dead comet made a similar pass over Earth in 1975, and it's expected to come around again in 2027. Who knows? Maybe this time the Earth will get smashed by a huge comet with a skull face. Number 14. Space booze. According to some astronomers, the center of our universe smells like raspberries. At least, that's the conclusion they came to after finding a gigantic cloud of booze near the center of our galaxy. The first major discovery was made in 2001. Scientists were shocked to find traces of alcohol in the center of a giant cloud floating around in space. This special type of alcohol, called vinyl alcohol, does not cause intoxication, but rather serves as a building block for simple forms of life. The mysterious cloud of gas and dust also contained two new alien molecules that had never been seen before, as well as a dangerous form of cyanide. Exactly what the alien molecules were has never been explained. Perhaps such information was too dangerous to release to the public and has since been classified. In 2006, astronomers again found a giant booze cloud floating around in space. This time, it was around 288 billion miles long, and they found it wrapped around what could have been the early formations of a star. If what they were seeing was true, then scientists believe the formation of planets might begin with this special type of alcohol. This could be proof of living organisms traveling through space, creating new life. In truth, researchers quite simply do not know what to make of this strange space alcohol phenomena. As NASA continues to analyze and speculate on what the giant cloud might be, the only thing they seem to be able to come up with are more questions. Number 13. The Space Pegasus. The Trifid Nebula is a huge gathering of swirling gas and space dust that's around 300,000 years old. It was first discovered in 1764, but we've been able to get a lot closer since then. And one picture in particular has been generating a lot of buzz. This picture, taken by the Hubble telescope, shows a giant cloud of radioactive gas. If you're like most people though, then you'll also see what appears to be a winged unicorn in mid-flight. If not, then imagine a unicorn looking to its left. And then maybe you'll see how a light and airy cloud forms its mane with a sharp section of the cloud juts upward, forming a prominent horn. Other people sometimes see the side of an ogre's head, or even a demon with its back turned. The Trifid Nebula was once a hotspot for cosmic activity. In 2005, NASA found 30 huge stars and 120 newly developing ones. Even though new stars are no longer forming in this area, some people believe that it was the scene of a universal battle between good and evil. For many, pictures like this unicorn, or demon depending on how you look at it, further back up this theory. Number 12. Gliese 581g. The Gliese star system is located 120 trillion miles away from the Earth, and its existence has captured the attention of researchers for over 20 years. That's because out of all the places in outer space that could one day be colonized by man, Gliese 581g is the most likely for such an event to actually happen. As such, it is also the most likely place for alien life to already exist. Exactly how likely is there to be alien life on Gliese 581g? Well, 100%, at least according to Dr. Stephen Vogt, the person responsible for its discovery. The rocky planet is thought to contain a working atmosphere that has water, though scientists aren't sure exactly what this supposed atmosphere is made of. Gliese 581g is roughly twice the size of Earth and has double the amount of gravity. A full year on this planet is over in only 37 days. It does sound pretty inhabitable at first. However, the planet also has a dangerous side. You see, Gliese 581g does not spin. Instead, one half of the planet constantly bakes under the hot sun while the colder side faces out into space. So basically, one side of the planet is hot enough to melt you instantly, and the other half is cold enough to freeze you to death in less than a second. Only a very tiny strip of land towards the center of the planet is the right temperature for mankind to live in. And that's probably where the aliens are already living too. Exactly what types of aliens live there is unknown, but we have been beaming radio signals there since 1995 in an effort to communicate with them. There's been no response so far, so either the alien life is not very technologically advanced, or they are just playing hard to get. The prospect of active alien life is the scariest thing about Gliese 581g to date. Even though scientists have some strong theories, we ultimately have no idea what's actually out there. It could one day become the first site of alien contact, or it could turn out to be absolutely nothing at all. Either way, the idea of trying to exist on a planet that's barely protected from the elements might sound bad, but it's just another day when you're living in space. Number 11. Gravitational lensing. Objects on Earth always appear one in front of the other, but in space, nothing is as it seems. Gravitational lensing is what happens when an object is so large that it changes the properties of space and time. Basically, the object is able to bend light to create all sorts of crazy-looking effects. Sometimes this can cause a mirror image of an object to form when nothing is there. Sometimes this can cause a nearby object to look smaller when it's actually much larger. And sometimes the bent light can even be used to find stuff in space that would otherwise be completely invisible. In the most extreme cases, however, it can even let you see through objects that are completely solid. Take this picture of two planets, for example. Do you see that little bright star in the middle? It's actually behind the larger planet and not in front. And no, the larger planet is not see-through. That's the gravitational lensing effect in action. Why is this scary? Well, let's just say that when you're traveling through space, objects in the mirror can be closer than they appear. Space's ability to bend light also applies to sound waves as well. One day, scientists hope to master the gravitational lensing effect so they can send communication signals faster and deeper into space than ever before. If all goes well, the gravitational lensing effect will let us one day instantly talk to alien spacecraft that are way too far away for us to reach with present technology. Number 10. Gliese 436b. This is the name of a much less hospitable planet than Gliese 581g that is crazy in almost every possible way imaginable. Its orbit is so close to its main star that a full year only takes 2.5 days. This close proximity to its version of a sun is why this planet is also boiling hot. But here's the other thing that simply doesn't add up. Despite its great heat, Gliese 436b is completely covered in ice. This is a planet that is 4 times wider than Earth and 980 degrees Fahrenheit, yet also solid ice. How can this be? Well, basically, there's such a huge amount of gravity on this planet that it doesn't allow the water to properly evaporate into the air like it would on Earth. As a result, The thick substance coating the ground more closely resembles a diamond rather than ice, even though it's technically still a form of water. Many are calling it Ice X. Overall, this planet is terrifying because it defies all modern expectations of physics and leaves scientists constantly second-guessing all that they've come to know. After all, if there is a planet full of ice that is also nearly 1,000 degrees, then what other insane anomalies are waiting out there to completely turn science upside down? Number 9. From Mars with Love. There's no doubt that strange objects tend to appear on Mars from time to time. Take the multiple heart-shaped craters, for example. I mean, when you only see one heart-shaped crater, it's easy to write off as just an overactive imagination. When you have a dozen hearts, however, even NASA can't help but wonder if they have a secret admirer. On Valentine's Day of 2004, NASA compiled all of their heart-shaped craters together and displayed them on their main website to wish everyone a happy holiday. It may have looked like just a silly gesture at first, but conspiracy theorists think that NASA was trying to hide evidence of alien activity from the public by putting it right out there in the open. If NASA thought they could play off all these hearts on Mars as just being a mere coincidence, then their plan didn't work very well. Many people think that these aliens have left symbols as a way of showing peace and respect towards the human race. Of course, just how peaceful an alien encounter on Mars really would be has yet to be seen. Number 8. Disney in space. In June of 2012, NASA satellites picked up a strange-looking crater on planet Mercury. What stunned scientists and civilians alike was the crater's resemblance to a famous Walt Disney icon. It truly looked to be none other than Mickey Mouse himself. In the photo, a 65-mile crater forms Mickey Mouse's head, and two smaller impact zones directly above create his ears. Many believe that this was a message from aliens who were trying to relate to us by showing an object from our culture. If this wasn't a sign from an alien race, then meteors somehow fell in the exact shape of a Disney logo. NASA writes off this sighting as a phenomenon called pareidolia, which is where humans tend to find important symbolic meaning in random patterns and images. Still, others say that this was a clear sign of aliens trying to communicate with us, and that the government is covering it up as usual. Either way, whatever could have been up there was enough to convince NASA to expand their Mercury mapping mission for another year. Number 7. Faces of Mars. You've heard of the man on the moon, but have you heard of the faces on Mars? In 1976, a satellite called the Viking 1 captured a humanoid face and other strange features that have been the center of much speculation ever since. Although some say it was nothing more than a trick of light, many others agree that this explanation is a cover-up story for something much bigger. A 1988 paper called Unusual Martian Surface Features analyzes pictures of the Mars faces by using the most advanced digital analysis methods available at the time. No matter how much they played with the lighting, however, researchers were always able to make out the distinct eyes, mouth and teeth of a face on the surface of Mars. In other words, they were unable to recreate the trick of light that NASA claims to have distorted the pictures into looking like faces. In fact, this paper finds that the faces, quote, may not be natural, end quote, and are the very least in need of further study. At first, NASA agreed that this photograph did look like a face, but then they showed a different picture of the same object that didn't look like a face at all. When two independent researchers dug through the NASA archives, however, they found yet another image that looked even more like a face than the first one. Is this really telltale evidence of ancient civilizations on Mars? Number 6. The Happy Face Crater. The first Mars Orbiter camera was thought to be lost in space forever during the 1990s. In 1999, however, NASA regained control of the camera and began to map the planet of Mars for the first time ever. Imagine their surprise when they were greeted by a rather bizarre welcome sign on their very first day of work. Scientists were scanning the planet when they noticed that one crater in particular looked as though a bored alien had doodled all over it. The unmistakable lines of a smiley face were staring at them from inside of the crater. The Happy Face crater, as it's come to be known as, is without a doubt the biggest sign of intelligent life to many. If this welcoming signal is to be believed, then not only is there intelligent life out there, but also aliens with a well-rounded sense of humor. The smiley face was often used in the 1970s, along with the slogan, "Have a nice day." In the late 1990s, when this Mars exploration mission was conducted, the yellow smiley face was seeing a cultural renewal, especially with the popularity of the internet. Could the aliens have been studying us as a species and known this about our culture? Was this their way of offering a friendly gesture of peace in a way that we would understand? Number 5. Smith Cloud. The Smith Cloud is a giant cloud of invisible gas that is heading straight towards our galaxy at 700,000 miles per hour. When it gets here, it will explode with enough force to make up to 2 million stars. Not that we'll be around to see it, it's an explosion that we aren't expected to survive. The Smith Cloud started 70 million years ago, when it broke away from the Milky Way galaxy and began wandering off into deep space. Nobody knows exactly why this happened, but they do know that the cloud is now about 30 times wider than the moon itself, and it's making its way back towards Earth in a giant, boomerang-shaped pattern. In recent years, NASA used the Hubble telescope to discover that the Smith Cloud is largely made of sulfur, and that it's collecting even more material as it passes by other stars. Many feel that the Smith Cloud is evidence of how the galaxy is constantly somehow recycling its gas. Perhaps these roaming gas clouds are even one-way planets. Form in the first place. Either way, experts predict that the human race has about 30 million more years to live before the Smith Cloud ends us all. Number 4. The mother of all black holes. System CID-42 is about 4 billion light-years away from us, which sounds like a long distance at first, but probably not after I tell you what just shot out of it. This system is where a massive black hole was last seen traveling at the speed of several million miles per hour. Okay, let me take a second to explain why this is not a good thing for you or me. First of all, black holes aren't really supposed to be traveling. They typically stay in place and eat up everything they come into contact with. Some black holes do travel, but not many. With this in mind, a black hole traveling millions of miles per hour is absolutely terrifying, especially when they can't tell which direction it will head in next. Second, this isn't just a single ordinary black hole, but instead it's probably a black hole within a black hole, which makes it even more powerful. Scientists think that System CID-42 suffered a massive catastrophe when 2 black holes got caught in each other's orbit. The end result was a powerful burst of gravitational radiation that sent a supermassive black hole spiraling away from its galaxy into the great black beyond. Where it goes next is anyone's guess. In 2012, the 2 black holes were seen splitting apart at a rate of 3 million miles per hour. It's believed that they eventually snapped back into each other, kind of like a rubber band, at which point the 2 holes fully merged and left the galaxy. Another theory suggests there were originally 3 black holes that merged and sent the smallest one flying. Either way, a renegade black hole is probably the last thing you'd ever want to worry about while traveling through space. Number 3. In God's Hands. In 2014, NASA caught a spectacular image that was seemingly straight from the heavens. What they were witnessing was the end of a star's life cycle. It's called a supernova explosion, and it's the largest type of explosion ever to be recorded in space. To many, it's also a proof of God. Here's what happens. When a star gets old enough, its core becomes so heavy that it starts to interfere with gravity itself, eventually leading to a giant explosion as the planet implodes. As if capturing a huge space explosion on tape wasn't scary enough, scientists were stunned that this explosion in particular took the form of a giant hand. This supernova explosion is called the Hand of God, and it happened to a planet called B1509. If you look closely, you can see a cloud of explosive material forming a ghostly arm. It's as if the fingers are wrapping around the explosion itself, claiming it as celestial property. Researchers say that they saw the hands actually, quote, shrink around the explosion, with the fingers eventually appearing to ball into a fist. Is this little more than a nuclear space explosion that caused a dazzling light show? Or did God himself make an appearance for NASA to share with the world? More than 2 years later, this still remains a topic of hot debate. Do you think this photograph is simply the result of an explosion in space? Or does this picture have a deeper meaning than its scientific explanation would lead you to believe? Make sure to let me know. Number 2. Bigfoot on Mars. If you've been wondering where all of the Bigfoot sightings have been lately, then you've probably been checking on the wrong planet. According to many conspiracy theorists, Bigfoot has moved to Mars, and they have the photos to prove it. At the beginning of this year, a YouTuber named Paranormal Crucible was analyzing pictures from a NASA rover when he noticed an upright figure roaming around in the distance. The way the creature was hunched over gave off the unmistakable appearance of an ape. Paranormal Crucible immediately put his discovery up, and many agreed that if this was not Bigfoot, then this was definitely some sort of similar-looking primitive space ape. Months later, the same YouTuber made another shocking discovery. He spotted a strange alien object lying on the ground. It looked like a helmet at first, but others are confirming that this appears to be the skull of a human-like creature. Could this be Bigfoot's head? Even a cursory glance reveals 2 eye holes and a gigantic forehead. If this is not a fossil, then perhaps it was protective armor or some sort of mask. Whatever it is, many believe that this is further proof of intelligent life on the Red Planet. Number 1. Dark Flow. This is a huge floating mass that could possibly kill us all. Exactly what dark flow looks like is anyone's guess, but we definitely know that it exists at the far ends of our universe. How do we know? Because we've been watching it eat entire galaxies. In 2008, a NASA scientist named Sasha Kashlinsky observed a cluster of planets moving at an incredible speed towards a central point in the sky. Something out there was pulling the planets towards them at 620 miles per hour, though Sasha couldn't tell what it was. Still, anytime you see entire planets moving towards a path of destruction, you know you've stumbled onto something big. 8 years later, we still don't really know what to make of Dr. Kashlinsky's discovery. At this point, scientists are fairly sure that beyond our universe lies megastructures that dictate the gravitational pull of our galaxy. Beyond that, we have absolutely no idea what these structures look like or how they came to be. Basically, the current working theory is that our puny universe is not big at all, and something deep in space is very, very hungry. So here's an extra for all of you. White holes. Since white holes are technically still a theory, it means that we couldn't give them a number in the top 15 list. However, some scientists are sure that they're out there. We just have yet to find one. As soon as we do, they will undoubtedly become one of the scariest things ever found in space. So, what are white holes? Well, they're obviously the opposite of black holes, but the explanation goes much deeper than that. Black holes are created when a massive star dies, at which point everything becomes denser than the speed of light. When something's heavier than the speed of light, it can no longer move through space and thus falls inside of the black hole. Exactly what happens from there on is left to imagination. Nonetheless, these holes have been proven to exist. White holes, on the other hand, are black holes without the thick, crushing density. They're weightless. So while black holes receive matter, white holes reject everything around them and push them away at high speeds. In theory, a white hole would appear billions of years after a black hole has shrunk down to the smallest possible size. Basically, once a black hole becomes microscopic, it begins to expand again, this time as a white hole. Some scientists believe that a white hole is responsible for the creation of our universe. Under this assumption, a white hole shot out all of the materials needed to create our galaxy. Other theories even use a white hole for the possibility of time travel. If we ever discover a real one, we'll be able to put these equations to the test. Until then, NASA will have to just keep guessing. Their uncertainty is perhaps the scariest thing of all. Now, even now, we're not quite done yet. I've got another bonus for you coming up real soon. But first, allow me to plug myself. My name is Suraim. You've probably heard me before on this channel, but did you know that I also run my own YouTube channel? Just check out the link in the description to find some horrifying stories that I've narrated. I hope to see you on my channel soon. Now, let's get to that second bonus. Space water. Well, this one isn't extremely scary or anything, but it's just too cool not to mention. About 12 billion light years away from you and me, there exists a floating mass of water that is about 140 trillion times greater than all of the water in our planet's oceans combined. And this gigantic mass of water is coming directly from a black hole. To give you a frame of reference, the black hole that's responsible for creating this water is 20 billion times larger than our Sun. As the black hole eats all of the surrounding gas and dust, it spits out a huge amount of energy. In fact, the amount of energy it produces is the same as trillions of suns. This energy transforms into large amounts of water vapor. What exactly will become of this giant floating cloud of water remains to be seen. Some scientists expect that it will eventually grow so large that it will be ejected out of the galaxy and roam the stars on its own. Eventually, it may even come into contact with another planet and form life. Others expect that the floating mass will begin to form living one-celled organisms on its own that may eventually be passed on to whatever planet the water comes into contact with. It really all depends on if the planet contains an atmosphere that can host water-based life forms or not. Who knows, perhaps this was how life on planet Earth was formed. Maybe all of the water that makes up our oceans originally started out as a cluster of water vapor from a strange and special black hole. So as you can see, black holes aren't always that bad. You may have even come from one.